right that pods are going to increase inequality in part by pulling resources out of public schools, especially if parents are using these as an alternative to public education, and especially if they're pulling out teachers. Those dollars are going to follow the students. And that's going to leave the schools and the students that are left behind with even fewer resources than what they currently have. And then pods are also not equally accessible. Not all families can afford to pay for a private teacher or a private tutor. And even if those pods make available scholarships for some families to be able to join, many families may be excluded if they're not able to follow pod rules, for example, because they have to work outside the home, and so they have levels of exposure that other families won't tolerate.
And Jason Calacanis kind of kicked this off when he was looking for, he said, the best fourth to sixth grade teacher in the Bay Area to teach 2 to 7 students in my backyard. Lindsay, after pushback, he then said, well, you know, we're going to offer merit-based scholarships so other kids can join us too. Here's my question. You know, a lot of parents really have just to make this choice about what to do with their kids in the fall. Are they not expected to try to get the best educational outcome? I mean, you know, it seems obvious to me that if the school says we're not going to open, that they're going to say, all right, well, then we'll come up with a plan B.
Right. And this is a really good argument for why dollars should follow children to education options of choice. Right now, low-income families, even despite New York's announcement today, most low-income families across the country will not have access to in-person learning this fall. And so parents are incredibly concerned about the potential for learning loss. And we know that that can be particularly acute for children from low-income families. And so they are banding together. They are forming these pandemic pods, these collaborative settings for children to learn together. And if we want to make sure every child has the same type of access to these new and innovative education options, we should do everything we can to have policy catch up with parents and have dollars follow children to these options.
Yeah, in other words, so you can keep your tax dollars at home this year, which would be a compelling argument for a lot of people. So, Jessica, also, I mean, this is the teachers themselves have to realize what's at stake here. I mean, there's going to be teachers who accept these better paying offers, and there's plenty right now who don't want to go back and are contributing to the lack of other options for people in public schools right now.
And I certainly understand why teachers would want this safer option, but I think we have to think about what are the long-term implications here for public education. The reason we have a public school system is because it's not cost-effective, and many families can't provide, even with supplemental dollars, the kind of educational quality that we expect students to have in the U.S. education system. And if we encourage this kind of privatization of pulling these public dollars out of public schools and giving them directly to families, it's only going to allow the privileged families in the system to further increase their advantages over the students whose families don't have that same kind of access to resources and access to support to provide their kids with high quality learning opportunities at home.
Jessica, I'll give you the final word here, and I wonder if this is all a glimpse of the future. This is way bigger than COVID. It's people realizing there are alternative options.
And I think that's...
Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica, Lindsay, I meant to give you the last word. Go ahead.
Thanks. Well, it's true that right now low-income children are the least well-served by the existing system. Public education exists to educate the public. It should not prioritize district assignment of schooling, which has underserved low-income children in particular for so long. We have got to do everything we can right now to ensure educational continuity for all children, and that requires funding the child instead of physical school buildings.